So on this Monday, the 17th of November, 2025, in Mombasa, Kenya, we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We're reading from chapter 2, chapter entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, and we are reading from text number 57. Ya sarvatra vishneha stata prapya subha shubham nabi nandati nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Ya sarvatra vishneha stata prapya subha shubham nabi nandati nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Ya sarvatra vishneha tattat prapya shubha shubham nabi nandati nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Yah, one who, sarvatra, everywhere, anavishneha, without affection, tat, that, prapya, achieving, shubham, good, ashubham, evil, na, never, Abhinanda, praises, na, never, Vreshti, enemies, Tasya, his, Pragya, perfect knowledge, Pratishta, fixed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: in the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Purport: there is always some upheaval in the material world, which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is said to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil, because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good, absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in perfect transcendental position, called technically Samadhi. Om Adhyana Umirandasya Gyananjana Shrakaya Chakshu Amilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachanam Pangulakayati Vidim Yat Vipatam Aham Bande Shri Guru Nataranam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutsale Shri Mati Bhakti Charup Swami Niti Narane. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutsale Shri Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Narane. Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Devi Sesa Sunya Bali Prastapa Keshakarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this material world, one is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Hare Krishna. So, as we were discussing yesterday, Krishna, Arjuna, and we also mentioned how this whole material world is made up of question and answers. And Krishna is answering Arjuna's question about the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence. How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So Krishna answered the first of Arjuna's questions. Now he's continuing with the answer, describing how one who's firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness, in other words, in perfect knowledge, is unaffected by whatever good or evil one may obtain. So there is a very interesting, nice verse in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's 1:110. Prayana Alparisa Samya Kala Asmi Vige Manda Sumanda Mata Yumanda Bhagya Hivaya. So this verse describes our lot in this Kali Yuga. It describes the qualities of the people in this Kali Yuga. That we have short lives in this age of Kali. Right? Many of us have seen 40, many of us have seen the age of 50, and how many of us will see will go on to live 60, and those that have reached 60, how many will go to reach 70? And how many of those who have reached 70 will go on to reach 80? And how many will go all the way to 90 and 100? Probably very few, especially in this generation, the generation that we live on. And we are always, it's also described that in this age, people are very quarrelsome. Right? This age is very quarrelsome. It just takes just a little bit to annoy somebody or to trigger somebody off, to make somebody angry, right? You see how people are living on edge. The stress level is so high in this world nowadays because of studies, because of work, because of our own mental inclinations that are very quick to become angry. And when we become angry, we're quarrelsome. Quarrel with colleagues at work, with devotees, other devotees, and so on and so on. Right? And lazy, especially in terms of spiritual stuff, spiritual practice. Right? If we have to choose between taking a nap and finishing your 16 rounds, it's obvious which one we choose, right? We take a nap. And it goes on to describe we are misguided, we are unfortunate. And above all, we are always disturbed. The mind is always churning. There's always something that's disturbing in the mind. Something. Always. It's very rare to have a human being who's peaceful and can sit without any troubles. Right? You're worrying about exams is coming out, stressed out about exams. If you're a business person, you're stressed out about your employees stealing from you, or somebody, another businessman wanting to take your business. So there's always stress. There's always stress in this material world. In fact, this material world is known as Durga. 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 Dur means difficult. Can mean very far away, but it also means difficult. And Ga means a place. So this material world is known as a very difficult place. I think we all know it. We all know the challenges that comes with living in this material world.
enemies, friends, and so forth. So it's a very difficult place to live in this material world. In South Africa, there's a place called Durban. I like to play around with words. Right? If you take Durban and you break it out into two words, you have Dur. Maybe some of you have been to Durban in South Africa. There's also a Durban in the US, by the way. There's quite a few Durbans in the world. So Durban, if you take the word and you break it down, you have Durban, right? Dur, just like you said, Durga. Dur means either very, so you can spin it in two ways, right? If you spin it positively, you say Durban, right? Like my name is Vrajabasi, right? And people say Vrajabasi. So the V and the B interchangeably, right? So you can say Durvan, right? And Van, like we have Vrinda Van, and Van means forest. And Dur can mean also very far away. So Durban or Durban can mean a very far away forest. Right? So there we have the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And so we can say Durban is the 13th forest of Vrindavan, but it's very far away. Dur, very, very far away from Vrindavan itself. Or you can spin it the other way also. Dur, like we've just been describing, Dur means very difficult. It's a difficult place to live in. And Van means forest. So you can also say Durban or Durban is a very, very difficult forest, very difficult place to live in. And if you are from South Africa, you know there's challenges. You know there's challenges in terms of safety, security, and so forth. So in one sense, the word, the name speaks. So the material world is a very difficult place to live in. Right? And the living being, we are by nature Ananda Mayo Pyasa. By nature, we want to be happy. We try to minimize pain and increase happiness. It's just natural. It's just natural, right? That we want to be happy. So, just in the material world, in terms of trying to situate ourselves in a comfortable position, in a comfortable thing, it's natural. So, the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Rupa Goswami, actually, Bhakti Rasamrita by Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. The summary of that book is The Nectar of Devotion by Srila Prabhupada. And there Srila Prabhupada describes that there are three types of happiness. Right? We're always searching for happiness. There's three types of happiness. The first type of happiness is the happiness that we derive from sense gratification. Right? When the objects of the senses come in contact, when the senses come in contact with the object of the senses, then we usually call it happiness. Right? Like if you live here and then you go, you watch your favorite TV show, it makes you happy. So this is the material world. This is the one type of happiness that is derived from sense gratification. But unfortunately, this type of happiness doesn't endure. It's chanchala. We all know that. Material world is very chanchala. Material happiness is very chanchala. 1 minute you are happy, the next minute you are stressed. Just like a robot, right? In South Africa we say robots, I don't know, in Kenya we say traffic lights. And people get really, they get confused when they go to South Africa and when we tell them, stop at a robot. They say, what do you mean by robot? In South Africa by robot we mean traffic light. Right? So sometimes it's green, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's yellow. Right? So this is naturally our state of mind that fluctuates like that. So the material happiness is chanchala. So it's not the type of happiness that we can really derive long-term satisfaction from. And then another type of happiness, of course, is the happiness that comes from spiritual practice, just general spiritual practice, Brahmananda. And when one is nicely situated in spiritual practice, one naturally also becomes happy naturally. Becomes happy naturally. And there is the third type of happiness, the happiness that is derived or that comes from Krishna consciousness, from practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is called Ananda. Ananda. So maybe what we should also do is, I don't lose my place here. So happiness, like yesterday we were describing the different symptoms of the modes of nature, right? we described how the mode of goodness is symptomatic. The symptoms of the mode of goodness are that one is naturally happy and one is in knowledge. The senses are illumined by knowledge. And the mode of passion is usually more longing, more desires. The more you want, the more you have. In fact, there was an American businessman. Some of you may know him. What was his name? Paul Getty. Paul John Getty was a millionaire, American millionaire. It was like back in the 70s. So he was such a person that he was a staunch businessman, and some people would call him a miser. That when his children came to visit him, he would charge them. Every time he opened the fridge, he would tell them, okay, you are expending, you are using so much of gas, of electricity, so you charge. You drink a glass of water, he charges you. So I don't know if any of you business people do that to your children. No. So he was extreme. He's an American, so he always thinking in dollar terms or in rand terms. So he was once interviewed and he was asked, Mr. Getty, you're so successful. And everybody's looking up to you, you're a very rich man. So what is your philosophy? And he said, my philosophy is only one word. And so everybody was paying attention. What is that? He said, only one word. What is that? More. More. So this is the mode of passion. The mode of passion means you want more. This mode of passion is always burning. The desire to want more is never satiated. The more you want, the more you want. The more you get, the more you want. This is a material world. It doesn't get satiated. So this is the symptom of the mode of passion. And the mode of goodness, as we described yesterday, the mode of ignorance rather is there's no sense of discrimination. One doesn't know what is right, what is wrong, and it is symptomized by a desire to sleep, laziness, quarrelsome also, always complaining. Somebody who's in the mode of passion, a mode of ignorance, is always complaining. They're not happy about anything. Even when there's cause to be happy, still they are unhappy. So the same way, the modes of nature also affect happiness. So let's hear what Krishna says about happiness and the modes of material nature. 1830 something. Oh yes. So in 86, Krishna says, O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Now he begins to describe the different types of happiness. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So we all know that things that are enduring, things that are of substance, they take time. They're not easy, right? So it's the same thing also with happiness. To be situated in the proper happiness, it actually takes practice. It takes work. It takes practice. So generally, like for instance, if you're a student, right, you want to get your bachelor degree or your bachelor's in engineering, in marine science, or in marine engineering, right? It means you have to spend 4 years of hard work. You have to work really hard. Right? When on a weekend, when people go out, your peers, your friends go out to enjoy life, there you are at home studying. Even with business people, you know Elon Musk, who is a former South African. Elon Musk, when he started, he slept at his desk. He slept at his desk. He never went home. He would wake up from his desk, just take water and brush his face, and then continue working. Day in and day out. That was his life. And people couldn't understand what kind of life is this. But because he had a goal in mind. So when one has a goal in mind, it actually takes a lot of work to get to. And now he's one of the, if not the richest men in the world. I just saw a Facebook clip that he's just been awarded $1 trillion. Yes, it's true. $1 trillion as a CEO of this company. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of zeros. Bogus are mine. I have to count how many zeros I have. And it's just the beginning. He's still a young man. He's still in his 50s. If he continues like this, he's going to make another $1 trillion in the next couple of years. So that which in the beginning is like poison, that which is very difficult in the beginning, in the end usually yields good results. So happiness is also like that. That which in the beginning is just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar. And awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the morning. Goodness. We wake up in the morning. Nobody wants to wake up in the morning, especially if it's raining, and the rain is making that nice sound, soothing sound. It's like 5 in the morning. You have to go to work. You have to go to school. Or you have to attend the morning program. The mind says sleep, and the heart says you have to attend. So that's one type of happiness. And the other type of happiness is that happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their object, and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. I remember when I first went to varsity, the first year of our engineering course, we were told that, I don't know how many, probably there were about 300 students in the first year. And we were told that out of the 300 students, only a small portion of you will go to second year. And in second year, only a small portion of those will go to third year. And only a portion of the third year will finally go and do final year. And sure enough, out of the 300 students, only 20 of us graduated in fourth year. Can you imagine? Then because it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of hard work to get to the stage of achieving your goals. That's the challenge. And what was even more challenging about this is that I went to, I don't know if you've heard the University of the West University. Those days, we used to have pubs on campus. You had pubs for the medics, those who were studying medicine. You had a pub for the engineers, and you had pub for different departments like this. And so, because you had a pub on campus, so you can imagine how many people attended classes. Very few people. Very, very few people. Because you are young. See, when you are at home, generally speaking, I'm sure you can also testify. When you are young, under your parents' guidance, they wake you up in the morning, they encourage you have to study, they make sure you study, they check your grades. Right? But then when you're in college or university, you're all on your own. You're all on your own. You have to make decisions on your own. And if you didn't have the background and the training, it becomes a disaster. Because I know students that would go to college and they wouldn't attend classes. Getting up in the morning was difficult, or they would get involved in all sorts of different bad things like drugs, alcohol. And I know people that started out very nicely, but by the end of the year they were alcoholics. This only takes 1 year, for somebody to become an alcoholic. Because the structure wasn't there when the person wasn't really taught to be independently thoughtful. So that type of happiness, it seems nice, it seems very nice that you could do whatever you want at any time. No, mom is not there, dad is not there to guide you or chastise you and tell you to study. But the result was that people didn't really make it at the end. So there's one type of happiness, the happiness which seems very blissful, very ecstatic, just the now, the happiness now, that doesn't endure. And Krishna says here that that type of happiness appears like nectar at first, but in the end is just like poison. And I know, of course, also that many of the, especially college students, they don't put in the work, and at the end, they write exams, and then they fail. And when they fail exams, what happens? Many of them kill themselves, commit suicide, because of the embarrassment of having to go back to your parents and to tell them that, Mom, Father, I failed. Right. And also, there's one guy that I was in class with. We went to the same high school and then to college. And we used to call him a razor because he had like such razor sharp intelligence. Razor sharp intelligence. Out of all of our schools, you got the highest grade, you got the most grades, you got the most A's. But he couldn't make it. He couldn't cut it in college. Such an intelligence, but he couldn't cut it because he made all the wrong decisions. Just enjoying the senses for now, but in the end, it wasn't so beneficial for him. And then Krishna continues, and that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the mode of ignorance. But sleep makes us happy too, isn't it? Sleep makes us happy. Like I was just describing, especially if it's raining in the morning, and it's like, So this is why Krishna describes that the symptom of the mode of ignorance is that one's mind is attached to one type of activity. This, in other words, one becomes addiction to like substances, alcohol, and all these things comes actually from this mode of ignorance. And you find people that are in the mode of ignorance, or they take substances, or they take pleasure in sleeping. It's a way of escaping the difficult world, the tough material world, this durga. Right? The best way to escape it is just to sleep or through substances. If you want to read more about this, Srila Prabhupada writes about this in the fourth chapter of the Gita, chapter 10. He describes how when people are in a distressed condition, they actually take to intoxication as an escape. So these are the different types of happinesses. But as we describe, or as Rupa Goswami describes in the Nectar of Devotion, this type of happiness is chanchala. It's not enduring, and it is not also satisfying. Another type of happiness, of course, is happiness that is derived just generally from spiritual practice, brahmananda. Spiritual practice, or just being a religious person, makes one happy. It does really make one happy. A belief in God gives a sense of happiness. And in fact, I hope a little tangent. When I was living in the U.S., I was in management there. We had one of Radhanath Maharaj's disciples when they were building this hospice. They were building a hospice. And so in San Diego, where I was staying, they had the best, at least at the time, they had the best hospice in the world. The best hospice in the world. So Radhanath Maharaj sent two of his disciples there to go study. They were doctors by training, but he wanted them to go and learn the art of taking care of people in hospice. Because hospice means, once you go into a hospice, it means you can't come out. That's it. You go to hospice means you are going to die. So every day we would ask them, so what did you learn today? Yesterday, what was happening? And so they shared a very interesting, a very interesting perspective about the nature of religion. How there's two types of people generally, right? Religious people and the non-religious person. And they were saying that you find that the non-religious people that don't believe in God, when it's time to die, they die a very difficult death. They die screaming, kicking, and they pass number 1 and number 2. Pass urine and then they pass 2. Because they are scared. Right? For them, there's no future. And then there's also the second type of person who believes in God, irrespective of denomination. Irrespective of denomination. And they were saying that these types of people, generally speaking, are much more accepting. When they die much more peaceful. Because they understand, okay, the body, everything is finished, the body is finished, but at least there's something after death. So there's a hope and a faith that whatever God that they worship will also help them or carry them forward after death, as compared to the atheists. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. So I lost my train of thought in this story. So and then there's another type of happiness which is called ananda. Ananda. Right? And this is happiness that is derived from Krishna consciousness. I don't know how many of you have seen how, maybe Janmashtami or Radhastami or these big festivals, right? You're supposed to fast the whole day. But devotees are so absorbed in service, that hunger doesn't bother. Hunger doesn't bother. I mean, it's like you wake up in the morning, you are so busy with other devotees, engaging in blissful service. Next thing you know, it's 12 midnight. No hunger pain. So this is like Krishna consciousness. The nature of Ananda is such that the pleasure that is derived that the pleasure derived from Krishna consciousness is the best type of happiness. And as it's described, as Krishna is described in today's verse, that somebody who is situated in Krishna consciousness is not so much disturbed by the, how does Krishna put it? Prabhupada actually in the purpose says, there's always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. And you find this also if you do a comparative study between the devotees of Krishna and generally other people, you find devotees are much better well adjusted. Devotees are much better able to deal with the difficulties of the material world without becoming excessively hopeless, without excessive lamentation. Yes, everybody laments. Yes, sometimes it's hopelessness, sometimes it's challenges. But for the devotees, these types of challenges don't knock people out. Some people, they get knocked out by these challenges that they can't get out. Yeah? I mean, think about the Lord Ram, the Ramachandra. When Sumatra took Lakshman, Sitaram, and Lord Ram, and then they spent the night at Maharaj Guhya, at his place. And Sumatra was battling in his mind. He was like, how is it possible that like such a sinless person like Lord Ram could suffer such challenges? And he went as far as saying, it just means that virtue is useless then. It's useless to be virtuous because somebody like Lord Ram will suffer these difficult challenges. But Lord Ram took it with truth. He was able to deal with it much better. And you can say, well, I mean, he's God, so he was able to do like that. But if you also look at the Pandavas, I mean, who else has gone through so much difficulties, so much challenges, so much upheavals than the Pandavas? The Duryodhana and his goons, they tried all different ways of eliminating the Pandavas. Poisoning Bhishma, poisoning cake, setting a house on fire, all different ways to eliminate, just because of the position. I mean, you can see the extent at which people go to eliminate others just for position. People can be ruthless. And it's not that the Pandavas were not disturbed. And we know Bhima was very upset. I mean, it's described he would always be hissing. He would always be hissing, very, very angry. But even Yudhishthira Maharaj at the end, when he thought back to all these people that died, all the challenges that were there, I mean, he was depressed at the end. In Nairobi, we were just reading the chapter where Bhishmadev is about to leave his body, right? And just as he's about to leave his body, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes and asks him questions. And prior to that, of course, was that everybody tried to pacify Yudhishthira. He was so depressed that everybody tried to pacify him. His brothers tried to pacify him. The Brahmanas tried to pacify him. Even Lord Krishna himself tried to pacify him, but he couldn't be pacified. He was only pacified after hearing the instructions of Bhishmadev. But the point is, it's not that devotees don't go through, it's not that we don't go through this challenge. We all know this. But devotees eventually, like Prabhupada would say, fall 1,000 times, get up, dust yourself up, and move on. And that's what happens with the Pandavas. They overcame the challenges and then they moved on. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, is that it gives us, or gives one the strength to be able to deal with the difficult material world. And if we didn't have that, life would be very, very difficult. Life would be very, very difficult. It would be very difficult to be able to deal with this Durga, this material world. As long as one is in the material world, there's always a possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil, because he's simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good and absolute. So I'll end here and see if there's any questions or comments or any points anybody would like to add. Maharaj? Okay. Can you speak a little louder so the devotees in the back can hear?
In the morning when we were learning, we were told about how gold needs to be refined.
In the morning we were learning?
We were learning about how gold needs to be refined so that it becomes pure.
I can't hear.
In the morning,
Yes.
when we were learning, we were being told of how gold needs to be purified so that it can become
What needs to be purified?
gold.
Gold, yes.
And now I was thinking, the process of Krishna consciousness purifies us automatically. But you also find that some impurities are hidden inside the heart and soul.
Some impurities are?
Are far much hidden within us that we cannot even realize.
I mean, some impurities are what? Because I'm sitting right above a fan, so please excuse me.
You find that some impurities within our hearts are so deeply driven in us that we cannot even comprehend or even notice them. But now we have been told also that the process of chanting helps us to purify ourselves. Now I was thinking, in which way can by saying so, yes, we understand what you're saying by saying so, but how can we fully understand this with practical experience?
How can we fully understand?
How can you understand that? How can you understand that those impurities within us can become purified through the